now tuned into DAR Sports Media. We are hitting you with another Hoops Hour. We are deep into the offseason. A lot of stuff flying all around. We just had the draft. Hope you guys enjoyed our big draft preview. If you want to go back and hear about, some of the players that your favorite teams might have picked, go back and check it out. Me and Apollo, we go damn near 2 hours deep diving on 33 prospects from this class. A lot of teams got a lot of value in that draft the other night. Real standout picks, I think, by the Celtics, by the Lakers, by the Kings. I think those would be the three teams that got the highest value as far as where our guy, Ken Moore of Shock Sports, had these guys ranked and what he thought about them. I think that those are the teams that really ended up playing their hand really, really well the other night. But we're here to talk about some other offseason stuff. Free agency going down. Things are flying all over the place. What I think we were just on here was kind of arguable. What is the lead impact thing? I thought it was Paul George to the Sixers, but I'm hearing some dissent that maybe it's this DeJounte Murray trade. True, tell me about it.
So I think the Paul George thing is obviously the most logical one to look at as the biggest trade because he's playing next to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. But if we look at playoff history, nobody, Embiid doesn't have a great playoff history. Paul George doesn't have a great playoff history. So I think for the regular season, the 76ers will look good, but it's like, are they automatically better than the Celtics or the Knicks? I don't think so. So, now with DeJounte Murray, the reason why I think
somebody said that trio's nickname is going to be probable, doubtful, out.
That is about as accurate as you can get for them. But I think the reason why I think the Pelicans trade makes it so interesting is because the Pelicans, they haven't had like a point guard who can also score and really, really give them what DeJounte gives them. You're adding that to, I guess Ingram is on the way out. If Ingram wasn't on the way out, you would have, Ingram, DeJounte, and Zion Williamson with Trey Murphy. I think Herb Jones. Like that's not a bad group of players to have on your team. So I feel like the Pelicans, who at one point were on fire when they're healthy, they just can't stay healthy, and that's what did them in. Obviously, DeJounte Murray, fairly healthy, but I still feel like if the Pelicans don't move Ingram, which I still think they will because he makes a good amount of money, if they didn't, they had a solid three that they could look to, but it's just health for them. And I think I was expecting Trae Young to be moved as opposed to DeJounte Murray based on what they said about Quinn Snyder, liked DeJounte a little bit more, and Trae Young is obviously a defensive liability. So I thought, and I actually thought the Hawks played a little bit better with DeJounte when Trey was out a little bit. Seemed like they played a little more, more effort on the defensive end, seemed a little more focused and a little more, kind of playing together. So I think if he can bring that to New Orleans, I think it's the move, the biggest move so far, just because DeJounte is a little younger. I don't know if you've seen him hit his full prime yet, but he can go out there and score. He can go drop 25 and 10. And with Paul George, it's like you got to worry about those games where Paul George goes 4-21, and mentally he might not always be all the way there. We just watched him spend his offseason bitching and moaning and complaining about, I don't want to do the dirty work. I don't want to do on his podcast. So it does make you wonder.
That shit ain't gonna work in Philadelphia. Like, let's keep it a step. Like, the Philadelphia media is gonna be on his scalp early. As soon as he has one of them 3 to 17 games, they're gonna be on him.
Yeah, I thought it was a weird fit too. I'm with you.
That shit ain't gonna work.
And I think also the thought process of Paul George is that he was gonna go to the Warriors, and then I know that was like a last minute conversations to try to make that happen using, I think, Chris Paul's contract as kind of the binder to kind of make that happen. The problem with that is, though, add in 34-year-old Paul George, who has his own fair share of injury histories after losing, and I guess we'll get to Klay leaving Golden State at some point in this, but I didn't necessarily think that was like, I didn't necessarily think it was a move that was going to take the Warriors over the top either. Now, obviously, it's a little different when you have a Maxey and Embiid. You got two pretty much all-stars right there with another all-star in Paul George. But as we've seen over the last couple of years, the 3 all-star method doesn't always work. It just doesn't work. We just watched.
Killed the big 3 era. Let's keep it a set. They killed the big 3 era. That shit ain't working no more. Bron said, "I'm gonna take a pay cut," and nobody went over there. Let's keep it a beam.
Well, I mean,
2012 no more. That big 3 shit ain't working. Got to have a well-balanced team. That's what the Knicks did. They made their quality moves with Bridges. And although they lost Hartenstein to OKC, and then Philly made their moves to stack up. They bolstered their bench too with Drummond and Oubre and Eric Gordon. So you got to have like at least 7 to 8 deep. That's the new method of this leag now. You ain't no more.
But you just pointed out something, right? You just pointed out that Philly just kind of bolstered their bench a little bit. So with the big 3 in that bench, I just don't believe in the bench pieces. I don't believe in Oubre when it comes time to win games like that. I don't believe in Eric Gordon if it's anymore. I saw what Eric Gordon did in Phoenix. He's not Houston, New Orleans Eric Gordon's, and even in New Orleans he was still getting KG saying he was trash ass nigga. So I can't, I can't look at Eric Gordon and be like, yeah, that's the guy off the bench. That's the veteran they need. Same thing with Drummond. I mean, Drummond is like Shaq and a fool on, like he's just Shaq. Like that's some of the plays he's made. We saw that in Chicago. I watched that in Chicago. So those are still decent. Rounding out I think the Clippers and 76ers have been the most active teams in terms of free agency. The Clippers are very confusing, and it's weird because it feels like
they want the villain squad.
Yeah, like I heard Miles Bridges is interested. I do not. I do not understand.
Junior, and they got Josh Primo. They got like all the sickos and women beaters on the roster.
They got the hey, run for your life, real time crew of motherfuckers over there, and that's just I don't understand the thought process because I know Kevin Porter Jr. is a talented player, but we all know the story about what happened. We all see the person he abused just lost her job on the team that she was playing for, and he gets all of a sudden gets a job with a team that James Harden, $35 million a year for the next 2 years. I don't know how I felt about that one, but I think for Paul George, I think in terms of fit, I thought he fit a little bit better in Golden State if they had obviously like another shooter, because I felt like he's Paul George, even though he can create his own shot, I think he's more dangerous off ball, which is why one of his best seasons came when he played next to Russell Westbrook in OKC and he was in MVP talks. So I think he would have fit pretty well with a Steph and Draymond, and if a Klay was still there too, I think that would have fit. They just been old. It's been really old, so it wouldn't have probably gone as well as we'd hoped. But yeah, man, I don't think like I said, I don't think this move makes the 76ers a favorite or a perennial favorite or like an Eastern Conference favorite, because you still have obviously like the Mikal Bridges, OG's back with the Knicks. The Celtics just read up Jason Tatum and Derek White with the ball head, as I actually like to say. I mean, you have teams in the East. The East looks like at the top, you got 3 top teams to me right there. You got the Celtics, you got your Knicks, and then you got your 76ers. And then somewhere deep in the crevice of the 4th, 5th seed in the East, you got the Milwaukee Bucks, who we didn't believe in last season, and we don't have reason to believe in them now because going forward, because look at what the fuck just happened and who's improved their team. So it's a 3-team thing at the top of the East, but I think Paul George he's not moving the needle that much, is my thing.
My guy said deep in the crevice. Apollo.
Yeah.
You.
So at the top of the show, just real quick, because we got you, I said that I thought that the teams, maybe not necessarily to be the best pick, but who got the best value in the draft last week was probably the Kings, the Lakers, and the Celtics. Anything you want to add to that, or what do you think of that?
I'm going to put the Timberwolves at the top,
Oh yeah. Timberwolves at the top for sure.
Well,
Forgot about that, but 100% because they had two of your top 5, didn't they, or top 10 at least?
yeah, definitely. Well, actually, and altogether, actually, 3 of my top 12. Yeah, 3 of my top 12.
Woo.
Um,
God damn.
I mean, look, now it's going to be a thing to see them fit together, but they got some dogs, man. Like the cats that they have a chip on their shoulder, and Minnesota should be coming back, fiercer than ever. So we'll see definitely. Now I would say the Kings will be second. Though I like the talent that the Blazers like collected, I don't understand what they're doing with them. They probably don't know themselves yet, but we'll see come summer league. Um, but yeah, I would say those teams. I'll put the Lakers up there, like a top 5 or 6. But I mean, Dalton Connect, I put like that. That was a good value pick for sure because
Yeah.
he was like a top 6 player. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a pretty good draft. And even the guys that got signed on like 2-week contracts and like Exhibit 10 contract, like that's a lot of good value, a lot of good guys. Like to be honest, if you want to go with the undrafted guys, Blake Henson from Pittsburgh, I mean, he was a really good player, and the Lakers that picked him up. They also picked up Sean East from Missouri. I seen him in the PIT a couple months ago. He's a baller. I'll get a kid that like he's a gamer for sure. He knows how to play the game. He has a high IQ. So just adding little pieces like that. I think that was pretty good for them overall. But
what is your lead off-season move? That's what we were talking about just now.
Lead off-season move.
The Murray one is pretty much getting votes. We're a little bit skeptical of. Obviously, Paul George is the biggest name moving to. Obviously you would think off the bat, but Axe says that the big three build is over. None of these guys have any playoff success, so they're moving the Murray move to the front. What's your top off-season move so far?
Yeah, I'd say. I'd actually say the Thunder have been making the best move.
I was gonna bring it. That was gonna be mine. If nobody picked it, bringing in Caruso, I think is fucking brilliant, and Hartenstein is gonna be a big impact because they can send Chet to the bench and bring in another 7-footer that protects the rim. Awesome. I think they're doing excellent fucking things down there. Go ahead, Apollo.
Yeah, everybody knows what Hartenstein did last year. He was a great fill-in for Mitchell Robinson. Now, the thing is about the league, everybody knows you need size. And everybody knew that the Oklahoma City Thunder, while they were a good young team, they were still a little thin in the front court.
Yeah.
And Chet needs, and I've seen some guys complain about they might have a problem from a schematic standpoint of no more 5 ins and outs because that's what Chet likes to do. So it's kind of gonna having Hartenstein there is kind of gonna mess that up for Chet. I don't necessarily see that happening because they're 2 different players, and you can hide Chet a little more and have him do like a jack of all trades, Draymond-esque type of role where he's just being a free safety on the court because he can do it all. He can shoot, you know what I'm saying? He can rim protect and all that. But having a big man here to kind of spell them, I think that does a lot for that team because that's kind of what they were missing, some grit inside. But also that's just kind of like my underrated signing, I would say. But I do like the Murray move. I do like that move. I think New Orleans is stronger. We'll see what happens with Brandon Ingram. Like the guy said earlier. If I was them, I'd keep him. I'd keep him for at least 1 year, or at least half a year. and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, try to dangle him by the trade deadline or whatever.
But what if they trade him to Sacramento, like it's been reported, and they get shooting back like Herter? They do have CJ McCollum there as well. And then Trey Murphy and Herb Jones are probably going to take another step as far as wing players.
Yeah.
Like, they're cheaper than Ingram's contract. That's why I think he's going to get traded, honestly. And he's not adorable.
Well, that's true. Hey, that would be another low risk move for the Kings. I'm very high on the Kings this year. I'm really excited to see what they do. But because of Devin Carter, I think Devin Carter.
Hell yeah, yep.
Devin Carter he's a pro. And he might be a little undersized. We'll see, but he can play big, and he has a real high IQ, and that's going to be good for that squad because they need more guys that can figure it out and have like better reactions to certain situations, things like that. But outside of that, that is a good cheaper option for them, and they'll probably go that route. But I think they need an actual like point guard, like like somebody to kind of man that ship. But we'll see. CJ is good, but he can kind of play better off.
DeJounte, he played fairly well when Trae Young was out last year.
He does, I would say, yeah, and he played well when he had that role, of course, in San Antonio. He led. Yeah.
Oh, what did you want to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. But I was just saying, like, as far as him leading the league in assists one of those years, like, he's shown he can do it. But it's just, they still. I don't know. It's still a good move either way. Like, it's still my favorite move out of all the big names. But yeah, I agree.
The Pelicans were like the worst team in the clutch, and DeJounte Murray, he was one of the better players in the clutch last season. He had a lot of game winners, so helped him out too.
Yeah, from an analytical standpoint, that's a match, that's a fit. So we'll see. Definitely. I feel like they definitely got better. And then couple that with how Zion played his last game. Some say that was one of the best games he played, his career. But we'll see if he can ascend to that next level, and they can put it all together.
The Knicks got better too. Taven lighting me up.
Here we go. I was about to say, hold on. We are 18 minutes into this, and it's been a treacherous road so far because our guy Tay has been sitting there having to wait to talk about the real winners of this offseason so far. The New York Knicks. Isn't that right, Tay?
Man. We keep talking about Paul George, DeJounte Murray. We're talking about the Kings. The winners of the offseason right now are the New York Knicks. Just bringing back the whole team outside of Hartenstein. That hurt a little bit. That hurt me like emotionally, but I think we'll be okay as a basketball team overall. Just getting Mikal Bridges. I was very excited. I was having a bad day, and then, winding down on my phone. Then next thing you know, I get a notification. I look at it. Mikal Bridges to the Knicks. Jumped out the bed. I ran outside, texted all my friends, recording voice memos and all that. I was very excited because I already knew what he brings to this New York Knicks team. This dominant and talented team, especially alongside OG, who I knew was coming back. There are some people in this podcast right now that didn't think he was coming back. I knew OG was loyal. OG wants to be a Knick for life. We got some of the. What don't we have? This is how you build a roster around a small guard. You got your small guard. You got to bring him some defense. Got some of the best options of defense you can possibly get. Doesn't get any better than OG and Mikal, man. And then on top of that, Mikal can create his own shot. He's not just a, defense only kind of guy. He can score. He can shoot. So it's just like, it's just makes perfect sense. I'm not even going to buy into the Nova Knicks thing. Like, I'm not going to do that. It's a cool story and all that. But just looking at it as a basketball perspective, like, the roster construction right now is great. Like I seen on Twitter, people were saying the Knicks build a super team full of role players. I'm not gonna sit here, I'm not gonna say that's wrong. Like that's how you build a team around a small point guard. Like this is exactly how you do it. And yeah, like expect to see the Knicks going pretty far in the playoffs. Like pretty much nowadays, if you look at all the roster constructions, you have to build your roster to beat the Celtics. Like you got to look at what the Celtics got going on, and you have to respect what they're doing. You got to match it. Like you're not going to beat them with, like the Pelicans. We were talking about the Pelicans and whatnot. Like they don't have enough. You know what I mean? Like I feel like New York is one of the 2 or 3 teams that actually has enough to even match them. I'm not even going to say they're better than them, but they do have enough to make it interesting. Like I think the Thunder, they made it interesting too. Trading Josh Giddey for Caruso. Kind of surprised that saw they wanted just give me Josh Giddey, you can have Caruso. Thought that was a terrible deal, And then the Thunder drafted a similar Josh Giddey build. But I mean, like the Thunder, they'll be here for a long time. They definitely have one of those rosters. Like to me, I feel like for a championship team, you need a wing defender, you need a superstar. They have that. The Thunder have that. The Knicks have that. The Celtics have that. So, and I would say the Timberwolves have that too. Those are the 4 teams right now that I see, have the best chance of winning next year. Like I think Denver, they're trending downwards.
Falling off,
yeah. Like they're definitely trending down. They have no bench. They lost KCP. Like it's not looking good for them. But yeah, the Knicks definitely right now are winning the offseason. It's not over. I'm hearing Walker Kessler trade rumors to the Knicks. Y'all wouldn't hear the end of it. Y'all better pray to God we don't trade for Walker Kessler.
Y'all get Kessler, I'll be a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie.
I would be.
You won't hear the end of it. But yeah, like I mean, to touch on the 76ers real quick, I feel like that was kind of a panic move for Paul George. Like they didn't really have a choice, because he made a lot of noise. What'd you say?
I said no, he didn't.
Yeah, like it's kind of where was he gonna go, to the Pistons? Like
exactly.
that was really the only team. Then on top of that, as the 76ers GM, you got to make Embiid happy.
Or the Magic.
Yeah, that too. Like it's just you have to make Embiid happy. Like he's been one of the most blessed superstars past 10 years. He's had Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons. They got him James Harden. He has Tyrese Maxey. I'm probably forgetting people, but he just had so much. He's never had a bad roster. Like, oh, this team can't win. Like, he's the missing piece every year. Honestly, like I feel like if he brings it, then he's had those great teams. But yeah, like the 76ers, they do look like one of those teams, like top heavy. And then you look to the bench. I don't think the bench is good. I'm not gonna lie. Like you were saying, the bench is bulked up. I don't think Andre Drummond and Eric Gordon. I don't think that's that doesn't move me necessarily. I am interested in Jared McCain though. I do think he'll be a microwave off the bench like that. I think with them drafting him, that would be nice. Like if he does pan out. And he is one of those kind of guys, which I think he will be. I really did like Jared McCain. Despite the dancing, I don't care about that. I'm talking about as a basketball player. But any other teams I'm missing? I don't think so. One last team, Timberwolves, trading for Rob Dillingham. I thought that was very smart. You got Mike Conley. How old is he? What, 55?
36.
Yeah, so
he older than that, I think.
Yeah, basketball years, like it's it's time. You got to look to replace that, and for a team that's low on money, they didn't. There was no, let's just go sign this guy. You got to trade draft capital, and they traded for the perfect guy. Rob Dillingham, he's coming in the league, just one of the best ISO guards, right? Like this just straight out of college. Like I really do think he's just really hard to guard. And just putting that alongside Anthony Edwards for a team that needed offense. Like you got Karl Anthony Towns, it's just not, you don't know what you'll get. Is he going to score 25? Is he going to score 5? Like just adding Dillingham to this team, to this, I'm not going to call them young, but I can't find a word for it. Just adding Dillingham to a team that's just getting used to things is great, especially replacing Mike Conley, so I think the Timberwolves will be back for sure. They got better. Losing Kyle Anderson hurts, but then again, I feel like they'll live. Yeah, so I would say Knicks and Timberwolves are winning the offseason right now.
I thought it was just real quick. I thought it was funny during the draft because we talk about it on this pod all the time, like NBA player primes. I thought it was funny during the draft when Connect was falling, how they were talking about, oh, he's 23, and these teams they want 18 and 19, but like none of those kids are they're fucking useless for the first 4 years they're in the league. So I don't know why it was such a premium on that. When a lot of these guys don't become useful, actual NBA starters until 25 at least. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting that was a point.
With the new CBA, it's looking like the upper class. I mean, Apollo, he could probably tell you better than I can just from outside looking in. Looks like with the new CBA, teams are looking for like upperclassmen, the more experienced players that can play right away. That's who the Celtics drafted. We drafted 23-year-old. Apollo, is there any truth to that?
Yeah, that's a lot of truth to that. Matter of fact, I got to put the Celtics up there definitely too because they were very, very smart. The picks that they got, right? They were very smart. Shireman, I'm telling you, man, that kid is a baller. He can do it all. I wouldn't be surprised if he would be another triple-double machine. You know what I'm saying? But he has to get the time. It depends. But anyway, it is true. It is true to that. For what I heard, X. And I put it like this: I'm actually hearing, a couple of things. Like some people's take on this free agency is like, well, these teams didn't really upgrade as much as they thought they did. Like it's like, well, time will tell on that. But it is true. They want the guys that can play now. Kind of piggybacking off of Tay liking the Timberwolves. Another thing. Speaking of experienced players, Terrence Shannon is their second draft pick. Eric, you remember he was like my number 5. Terrence Shannon, I'm telling you, and we seen in the tournament, this boy can take over games, and he's like 24 years old, so he's going to get his chance early. He could have came out like 2 years ago if he wanted, but I think he wanted to stay to make sure he can maximize himself, but he got himself in trouble. But this kid, he'll add another scoring punch to the offense along with Dillingham. So I mean, I think that's another thing that's going to make them strong.
Real quick before we get to a subject that I'm sure True is gonna give us some nice sound bites out of, but it involves the same team. Because everybody, I really, really liked Chris Paul to the Spurs. How do you guys feel about it? Go ahead, Tay.
Yeah, I did like that. Chris Paul has just been a great guy to have on your team. Like I just think back to a few years ago when he got traded to the Thunder, and nobody thought anything of the Thunder. Like thought Thunder was gonna be
they thought he was gonna fucking kind of bullshit through that season.
Right,
but they fucking didn't. Legit.
Yeah, they pulled their shorts up. They played. They fought every game. Got to the playoffs. Even made the playoff series interesting. And I would say that helped out SGA. And look at SGA now. Like I think that's the perfect player you want to bring for him. Like 11 mil. Like I don't think that's so overpaid. Like the Spurs are in no way, shape, or form like this contender. That's like penny pinching. Like that's perfect contract for him. That's the perfect player to bring in. And Chris Paul should rack up the assists. He should, kind of show Victor the way. I think that was a great pickup by the Spurs.
I think if they get either add another piece or somebody else on that team takes a step, it'd be interesting. I'm not sure if they're quite playing, but interesting. Ax, what do you think of the move?
really liked it. As Tay alluded to earlier, CP3's been on multiple teams, and almost every team except for Golden State, they all have made the playoffs. So he elevates every team that he's been to. Even though some people complain about some things he may do on the court, his basketball IQ is elite. His passing's elite. Defense, he's going to have the Spurs competing. I see over 30 wins. I'm not sure about a play-in, but they're going to take a leap this year. I think he'll work very well with Wemby. I think he'll work very well with Vassell. He'll probably bring Keldon Johnson back to who he was a couple years ago, too. Because at one point, he averaged 20 a game. So it is some talent on the Spurs team. And I think he'll help out Castle as well.
Yeah.
Their draft pick. So, yeah, I like the move a lot. Hopefully he can get his love of the game back because he looked miserable at times in Golden State and in Phoenix at times. So hopefully he can get his love of the game back, and then maybe one more year after that on a contender, try to ring chase. Hopefully Chris Paul can end his career on a high note. Hopefully.
Paulo, how'd you feel about it?
I think that was good. That was one of the things that I was saying in the pre-draft podcast, that the Spurs could also do good getting a veteran point guard, somebody that can be the captain and show the young guys what it takes. And I mean, now granted, he is a quintessential point guard. He can't really so much tell them how to win it all, but he at least made a finals appearance. So you know what I'm saying, he can at least give them that type of experience and stuff. But it's interesting though, if you actually look at the Spurs roster, they have a gluttony of point guards. And so I'm curious as to what they're gonna do with some of these pieces. I mean, with Castle, I put it like this: Chris Paul, he's no longer a starter. I mean, he's not a starter even with the Spurs. I mean, they still got.
Hell no. They gotta start Chris Paul at point guard.
He's gonna start some games, but he's not a starter.
Play him 4 minutes and then sit him on the bench.
He's gonna start.
Yeah, I think he's gonna start.
I hope not.
Yeah, I feel like they brought him there to be a starter.
That's terrible.
That's fine.
He is one or not anymore.
What I'm saying is he's going to get his opportunity to start, but he is not a starter anymore. So they definitely got to bring Castle. Castle's going to get the majority, but he can play multiple positions. Johnson is pretty tall. He can play the 4 sometimes. They still got Collins, so they got a lot of pieces they can interchange. And if that kid they got Sissoko, if they can get him some more time to show what he can do, he'll be another boon for them too. But Chris Paul, I'm just saying he is going to be starting. I'm not saying that. I just say he's not a starter anymore. And they still got Devontae.
On 40 though, to be fair. I say he's knocking on 40. To be
fair. Come on now, but yeah, he's still gonna be good. He's still gonna be valuable and have valuable minutes. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I'm pulling for him.
Yeah, I think it's a good role for him. Look what he did with the Thunder years ago. You know what I mean? That's a good role for him. But yeah. Other than that, like I said, they still have an interesting roster. I know they're gonna make some more moves. I don't know what moves they're gonna make per se, but after summer league, we'll have more of a thumping on these teams.
All right, True. Tell me about the ballad of Klay Thompson.
Well, let me start first and address the Chris Paul thing, like everybody else did first before I get into Klay Thompson. One, I'll just say Chris Paul fits perfectly with Wemby. I think he fits perfectly in the veteran role for a young team that has absolutely no true veteran presence. Whether or not that equals wins, I doubt it. But what it will do is we'll take Wemby to the next level, and he can also impart his knowledge on most of the guys that are there and help some of those guys find Wemby and put the focus on, hey, this is what you need to do. Get the ball to this guy. This is the best player on the team, and we need to focus on that. Like I said, I don't think Chris Paul's a starter anymore in this league, but at the same time, him getting a start in San Antonio is more so for development rather than winning anything. He's just, there to. It's like you paying it forward in your career in the twilight years, right? You're just going to these, playing with these amazing teams and playing with these amazing players on these terrible teams, and that's it. And he can check off. I mean, he's had a lot of great teammates throughout his time in the league. So adding Wemby, the possible next one up in the league, in the next couple of years, that's great. As far as Klay Thompson is concerned, I honestly don't have a lot to say on Klay. I think we've watched Klay struggle personally on the court with himself, and I think it's obvious the last 3 years. Even when I think what people don't realize is that Golden State winning the championship in 2022 was, and I know me and Apollo talk about this personally, but that was as very close to a carry job as you're gonna get from a superstar. And I think people talk about Jordan Poole. Well, defenses eventually started figuring Jordan Poole out as the season went on, and that's why he was practically useless in a good amount of the playoff games that he had. Klay Thompson, Game 6 Klay is what they said. He had one of those instances against Memphis, but he was not great against Dallas, and he was not great against Denver, that playoff run for Golden State Warriors either. He was also not great against the Celtics either. And Axe would attest to this because Draymond also got benched in that series, and the only person that showed up for that for that final series against the Celtics that year was Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney here and there also. So I'm not gonna give Klay any credit. I see you put your finger up. Alex, go ahead and say what you gotta say.
I just gotta say something really quick. The discourse I've seen on Twitter regarding a lot of Warriors fans, maybe Steph fans, towards Klay Thompson has been crazy to me. I understand it's been a little bit rocky the past couple years, but y'all had a fucking dynasty, 4 championships, and a lot of great moments. And the shit they talking about Klay, I feel is ridiculous. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, you are the same person. No, hold up. You're the same person that said in 2019, 2020 that Steph Curry would never score 50 or 60 points again. And then you was counting him out too. So you disrespected Steph before he was even.
That has nothing to do with my point. I'm talking about.
No. It does. Because you. No. It does. No. It does have a lot to do with his point. Because you're like, oh, the Steph Curry fans got issue with Klay Thompson. I think I would probably have an issue as a fan. I don't agree with Steph Curry fans completely shitting on Klay Thompson. I think it's one thing to admit that Klay Thompson is not the player he used to be. Defensively, he has dropped down several notches. I think offensively, the problem with Klay is not so much he's regressed offensively. It's his shot selection that we used to like when he was hitting 60 points in 29 minutes. Those shots aren't falling anymore. So instead of adjusting his game and trying to fix it, he's forcing it. And I think that's where a lot of, now, don't get me wrong, I agree with you, X, in a sense. All those Steph muses and carry 30 at such and such, I think they're weird. I think that's weird. I think at the end of the day, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson had an amazing run for 12, 13 years together, and it's one of the greatest runs we've ever seen in the history of basketball. That run helped revolutionize the game of basketball. It changed basketball. A lot of people can give Steph all the credit for that, but obviously the Splash Brothers were a thing for a reason. Klay Thompson, when he had his prime, was amazing. And I think the problem is that Steph Curry is no longer in his prime, so he's adjusting. Draymond Green is not the same defender he was 2016, 2017. And obviously it's shown also another guy who's had a problem dealing with regressing and dealing with the thought of maybe being off the team. Draymond Green, it's like Steph got the worst big three partners really in all big three in terms of like they're emotional, they are Steph, like Klay Thompson the reason why people are going at Klay Thompson is because the things that people are saying about him, the Warriors media have been saying this for the last 2 years about him. And I think that's the problem, is that Klay has always been coddled as a player. And people don't want to acknowledge this, because we could go back to 2015. People talk about, yo, Steph didn't win Finals MVP, Iguodala. Klay Thompson was a splash brother. Where the fuck was Klay Thompson in 2015? He did nothing. The game they won, there's the infamous meme of him fouling out the game and shit, and he had like 8 points. He shot terribly. 2016, Steph Curry was terrible, right? Steph Curry was terrible in the finals. That's part of the reason why they lost. Draymond Green suspension. Where the fuck was Klay Thompson in 2016? He was the second option. When 2017 came and KD came to the Golden State Warriors, what did Klay say? I ain't sacrificing shit. Who had to sacrifice and take a backseat a little bit? Steph Curry did. So that's where I think a lot of that resentment from the Steph Curry fans comes from. But it's not fair to Klay. Klay has been coddled, and he's been coddled by the organization the entire time, because that big three changed the trajectory of the Warriors. The Warriors were a loser franchise outside of the We Believe years.
Is wild though.
It's not wild at all. No. Everything I just said, it's true. Nobody has ever gave Klay criticism.
These are facts.
These are facts. Klay has never got that kind of criticism, and then when he got injured, he Klay be running his mouth, and he what has he been doing? Holding up 4 rings. What that is, on a personal note, from a psychology perspective, it's a sign of insecurity. He was not coping with his gifts, his talent taking a decline. What happens is, you've watched I don't know how many Warriors games you watch. I've watched just about every Warriors game. Klay shoots them out of many games. Game 4 against the Lakers last year in the playoffs, the Warriors had like a 3-point lead. The next 3 shots after that, contested Klay Thompson jumpers, terrible shots. That game was the difference between, and Steph obviously flamed out because Steph was carrying them motherfuckers for two years back to back. I'll be tired too. The same shit we say Braun was tired because he was carrying his team. Steph is the same way too. He's carrying them. Klay is not what he used to be. Steph can still give you 60. Steph can still give you 50. Steph can still do this. Draymond is not the same. Also, Draymond had to accept his role, but I'll tell you the difference. Steph Curry in the playoffs, the year they won the championship, what he do in the playoffs? He came off the bench, didn't he? Started the playoffs on the bench. Klay Thompson came back from 2 years off injury. What he do? Right back in the starting lineup. Right back in the starting lineup. And that's why I say coddled. It's because what nigga gonna miss damn near 3 years of basketball, and they're like, you could be right in the starting lineup. Go ahead, right in the starting lineup. That doesn't happen. If you miss 3 years for an ACL and Achilles, he's not Kevin Durant, obviously. They had to, Jordan Poole was averaging 20 points a game. And instead of Klay Thompson saying, you know what? Y'all got a rhythm. Y'all was just 18-2 without me. Let me come off the bench. Let me get in where I fit in. Let me work my way back up to it and earn that spot. Klay did not do that. It's because Klay Thompson has been gifted a lot of goodwill because he's Klay Thompson. Two season-ending injuries back-to-back years. That's why I say he's been coddled. It's like the moment people started saying criticism against Klay, it's like, well, Klay went through a lot. Yes, he has. And that is understandable. That's why people gave him grace the last 2 years. He's been ass half the time and good half the time because he had injuries that people do not come back and make a full comeback from in terms of their skill level and their talent and their play. That's a fair assessment. But for Klay Thompson, and let me clarify this. I think Joe Lacob's an idiot. I think Bob Myers was an idiot. I think most of the people in the Warriors front office, I think Steve Kerr is an absolute idiot. He's the weirdest coach I've ever seen in my life. He should have played Moses Moody a lot more this past 2 seasons, but he's an idiot. But I also think Klay Thompson's an idiot too. Just say why I think Draymond Green's an idiot. I think Klay Thompson has not adjusted to the fact that he is no longer the splash bro that he once was. And his fan base, just like you said, Steph's fan base, they're going to coddle him because I've seen him be made to be a victim for turning down 2 years and $48 million. What really happened was he turned that down because he thought his market value was higher than what it was. He should have taken that extension offer and rolled out with his brothers. But I'll tell you why he didn't. I can't speak too much about it because I've talked to several people just to clarify. And a lot of people felt like Klay was always planning to leave the moment Jordan Poole starting over him became a conversation. That's what I heard, that he was not happy about that. Then I heard after that, after they won the championship, do you remember, X? I don't know if you remember this. He showed up to training camp way out of shape, was not ready. Remember, he had to be eased into the season. You just won a championship. You had your first full off season to get ready for a season, and you showed up to camp out of shape. You did not play the minutes you could have played starting out that season. Then what happened when that season the Warriors struggled to stay over 500 because Klay was trash, Poole and Draymond thing happened. So it's a mix of everything. The Warriors dynasty ends because the surrounding pieces couldn't get it together. Draymond fucked up with Jordan Poole. Klay couldn't find who he was again. And instead of, like, I think Draymond's been coddled to an extent too by the fan base. Also, I think they all have been. I think, I think Steph sometimes gets coddled. Like, oh, he's tired. Like, oh, he's tired from carrying. Like, I know he is, but maybe if he was a little, like a little more aggressive with the front office and all that stuff. Like, stop doing that. Like, I'm gonna ride with my brothers to the end, blah blah blah, and all of the stuff like that. You needed better pieces. Now they're trying to get some better pieces. Now that Klay's left, and they got the exception. But Klay Thompson, I don't know how well Klay Thompson is going to work in Dallas. I think it was a move out of spite, and I think those moves never go well for people in the NBA. I think you make a move out of spite. I think he felt slighted by the organization, which, once again, I can't tell anyone. Me personally, I could never tell you to not feel slighted by an organization or another team. But I think Klay Thompson went about this the wrong way. I think he should have accepted the changes. The one thing I agree with Klay on is the disrespect, because Brandon Pods is not a starter yet in the NBA, and that is where I feel like the disrespect. I think Moses Moody was probably a better option to start over Klay Thompson, because he was being basically brought up to be the replacement for Klay Thompson, and like when Jordan Poole was gone. So I don't think Klay Thompson liked seeing his replacement. But in sports, how often do people like seeing their replacement in front of them? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not a good thing. So I think that started a lot with it. And I think where Steph, there's no successor to Steph. There's no successor to Draymond yet. And I think Klay felt he was expendable. And I guess in some way we'll find out, right? Steph, that 1 year without Klay for the entire season, he won a scoring championship. He was, I think he had the best overall season in 2021. In 2022, he they went 18-2 to start the season without Klay. So I think you have to, think those are important. Those are important things. Like I said, I don't want to rag on Klay too much, because I think he's still obviously a Bay Area Golden State legend. And the Splash Brothers, for me and Apollo, they mean something a little bit more outside of sports. We've gone through that ourselves and said a few things. We consider ourselves Splash Brothers rap wise, but I think Klay Klay has to come with the idea that he is going to be the third or fourth option, really, the third or fourth option, honestly, because PJ Washington might be able to go out there and do a little more for them if he's getting the opportunity. Klay has not played with somebody who's so isocentric like Luka or Kyrie. So, and they're great with passing, but I don't know. The movement that Klay is used to get open, might be a little different. You know what I'm saying? It might just be a little different. So I'm not gonna rag on Klay like that, though. Not gonna rag on. I think he was coddled for a long time, like a lot of players and a lot of rich kids coming up, and reality hitting you when you 35, 36. It's not pretty. And I think he left, and I think he went to a situation to chase a ring, maybe. And it's a good move and on paper, absolute good move on paper to go play with the team that just went to the finals. But I don't think he's the piece, and I think I don't know. It just feels like it was out of spite. Kind of random, honestly. But more power to him. But I don't think anybody got done wrong on any side. I don't think the Warriors got done wrong. I don't think Klay got done wrong. I know people like to say that. I think if somebody you trash and you cost them and you go 0-10 in an elimination game, and then the last playoffs before the year before you went even you was like 3-19 in the elimination game too. But I just think ego and pride are a heavy thing, man, and I think everybody involved are idiots. But all good things come to an end, right? So, hey, Warriors are over. They gotta pivot maybe, and maybe it helps them as a team going forward if they can find pieces to move around. But for now, it's the championship runs through the East, in my opinion. So unless OKC make a run for something.
Okay, is Klay Thompson going to move the needle for the Mavs?
I'm not even gonna say Klay Thompson. Just their offseason. They had a really underrated offseason too. Like, I think they definitely did need a Klay Thompson. Like, that makes them a better team. They lost Derrick Jones Jr. And then Quentin Grimes. Nobody's talking about that. Like, they had no like perimeter defenders. I think them getting Quentin Grimes, Knicks legend. I think them getting Quentin Grimes, like
Knicks legend.
That's honestly like it's a really good move, Like, they might have to play small, but I feel like they're gonna need Quentin Grimes to play some heavy minutes. They need some defender out there because they don't have it right now.
Yeah, Najee Marshall too.
They do. They definitely. Yeah, I was getting there. I was getting there. But yeah, like the Mavs improved when it comes to depth, and they now became a better 3-point shooter. Pretty much switching out Derrick Jones Jr. for Klay Thompson, like in the starting lineup. Yeah, he'll get a lot of open looks. He's playing with some of the best ISO players in the league. So yeah, I think the Mavericks, they did what they should have done. They got to the finals, and I feel like every team should try to get better every year. Whether that's bringing everybody back, or something. You should never just be content with losing players. So, they did exactly what they were supposed to do with replacing people that left, So, yeah, like, expect the Mavericks to be back and contending again next year. Like, this is a really good roster. Like, yeah, the starters and the bench. I think they have a solid bench now too. So yeah, the original question is Klay Thompson move the needle? I'll say yes. I'll go with yes.
Axe, you were making some faces. What do you think about what Tay was saying? You muted, bro. You're muted.
My bad. I think it's somewhat of an improvement. Doesn't really move the needle all the way. Only reason why I say it does slightly is because I think Denver and the Clippers got worse. But Klay Thompson improvement over Derrick Jones Jr. shooting wise. I think Lively comes back improved. And if he works on that 3-point shot that he randomly pulled out against us in the finals, I think that'll be a threat. And because he's really a special player, if he gets a consistent jumper, that raises his ceiling to a whole nother level. That's the key to where they go, in my opinion. I think PJ would be better. Yeah, the Mavericks definitely improved. I don't know if this makes them better than OKC because I really like what they did this offseason. I don't know if it makes them, Minnesota, I think they're going to have something to say too. Those will probably be the top 3 teams in the West with New Orleans knocking at 4. I think that the DeJounte Murray trade improved them that much. And like I said, with Denver and the Clippers, with the players they've lost, I'm really skeptical about those 2 teams. So I definitely think this move helped, but I don't know if it puts them back into the finals. We'll see. Still a lot of time left in free agency. We still in the first week.
Apollo, final word. What's your thoughts on this Klay Thompson saga?
Well, I mean, I agree with what the guys were saying. I do think Klay does move the needle. It might not be for like a huge push, but even the smallest increment, I think, could be the be the thing they need to make it over the hump. Now another thing that Klay brings is a decoy. His name and his credentials alone make him a constant threat. That no matter what his slippage was, I mean, he was still close to 39%. I mean, he's like a 42% 3-point shooter in his career, I think. But I mean, to have that slippage, that's not, that's still better than most of the league. So I mean, and the thing about shooters is, as long as long as they can still hit that shot, you know what I mean. You really don't need. I mean, you really just need them to do their job. Somebody that can just help space the floor. If Luka needs to kick it out, if Kyrie needs to kick it out, I mean, there you go. You got Klay right there. I mean, that alone just gives you an element that I think just adds a different layer, different perspective on their team. So for that alone, I do think he helps, and Najee Marshall is a great addition. That goes back to what X was saying earlier about like teams getting more high value experienced players. Teams putting a lot into experience because I mean the parity is at an all time high right now. We're getting a new mix of teams, a new crop of teams on the come up. So this is a pretty exciting, time in the league if you look at it. And I agree. I think OKC, Dallas, Minnesota are, teams that should be, on notice definitely and should be up top the West. I don't think Denver has slipped that much. But I mean, it's like X said, it's still early. There's still moves to be made. Teams are still figuring out what they have because, like I said, summer league's coming up. So they'll have an extensive look, to see what they got and what they need to tinker with. The Clippers, I do think, are getting worse on purpose. I mean, they could be, to be honest, at this point, they might as well just try to get rid of Kawhi Leonard. They can't because they just signed him again. But they should have, if they can do like a sign and trade, maybe. I don't know, but I just don't think they should have hitched onto that wagon. They probably should have just blew it up and just try to start from scratch. But I mean, it is what it is. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I do think Klay does move the needle, if albeit just a little bit. But that's the better than nothing. They don't really need that much.
We will see, and we will be back to recap the rest of the happenings in the NBA offseason next week here on DAR Sports Media. Things are looking solid for a week in wrestling this weekend. I don't have any outsideness coming up, so we might be able to make that happen for you guys. And just remember, we are just a few weeks away from camps and from NFL divisional previews. So football coverage will be back sooner than later. So even though things are a little slower, a little more relaxed around these parts, the world of DAR, it's still in some ways that we cannot talk about yet. Now more than ever, never stops.